I'm Cathy, and Maggie's setting out in the car.
Join us as we follow the moon. Today, we are out in rural Magnolia, Mississippi, 7364 Easley Road. And we came out to this location for something very special. And we want to share this with you, and we hope it makes as much impact on you as it has on us.
Come along.
This is a back road called Easley Road, about 8 miles north of the Louisiana line in the state of Mississippi. This little unopposing farm road holds a memorial that brings hundreds and thousands of people to the area. It was on this site where the plane carrying the band and support staff of Lynyrd Skynyrd, that plane went down when it ran out of fuel. This memorial was made with 6 steps for 6 people that lost their lives aboard that plane. The flight was doomed, but that autumn day had otherwise been beautiful, with the late afternoon light slowly fading to dusk in the sky from which the plane fell. In the warm early evening of October 20, 1977, a chartered twin-engine prop plane carrying members and crew of the popular musical group Lynyrd Skynyrd crashed in the forest near this marker. Several passengers were killed, including the charismatic frontman and founder, Ronnie Van Zant. Eyewitnesses on the ground had sighted the plane flying low, much too low over the treetops. By the time the plane hit the trees, word was already spreading in this corner of Amite County, Mississippi. Within moments after the crash, as evening descended, farmers, hunters, and other volunteers converged on the area, carrying blankets, flashlights, and other tools for what they reckoned would be a grim, urgent undertaking. The tragedy occurred because the plane had run out of fuel, so there was no fire or smoke to signal to the rescuers that the crash's exact location in the wooded obscurity. However, a helicopter had been dispatched to the emergency, and it was from this chopper hovering above the trees the volunteers were able to track to the downed plane. In the darkness, the main light available to the first responders was the giant spotlight beaming eerily down from the helicopter that floated above the wreckage for a long time while rescuers worked below. The absence of fire, plus the speedy actions of the volunteers on the ground and the medical staff who assisted them at local hospitals, were factors behind most of those aboard the plane surviving. But among the dead were lead singer Ronnie Van Zant, guitarist Steve Gaines, backup singer Cassie Gaines, sister of Steve, assistant tour manager Dean Kilpatrick, pilot Walter McCreary, and co-pilot William Gray. 20 of the 26 passengers survived, most with serious injuries.
Pre-crash, Rise of the Simple Man. In 1964, Lynyrd Skynyrd began humbly in Jacksonville, Florida. The founding members jokingly named the band after a gym coach, Lynyrd Skynyrd. Eventually, after numerous police interruptions of the band's loud and rowdy practice sessions, the group moved their rehearsals outside the city limits to an unair-conditioned one-room cabin they nicknamed the Hell House. In the sweltering southern heat, the band solidified as a tight musical unit. Guitarist Gary Rosington, Alan Collins, and Ed King formed what became known as the Three-Guitar Attack. Billy Powell provided keyboard and piano accompaniment. Bassist Leon Wilkeson and drummer Bob Burns established a backing for it all. Helming the show, Ronnie Van Zant sang about fighting and loving with equal passion. In 1973, their debut album, Lynyrd Skynyrd, announced the group to the world. Like other albums to come, this introductory work contained well-crafted yet musically and unpretentious songs for and about the common man. Tracks like Simple Man, Tuesday's Gone, Gimme 3 Steps, and what would become an anthem for fans across the globe, Free Bird demonstrated the band's ability to mix melody with hard-driving rock and roll. In the few short years leading up to the crash, Lynyrd Skynyrd released music that has become a permanent part of the rock lexicon. Their self-titled debut, followed by 4 other studio albums, Second Helping, Nuttin' Fancy, Gimme Back My Bullets, and Street Survivors, this last album, released just 3 days before the plane crash, would eventually reach the highest record chart ranking of all their work.
On October 20th, 1977, the band were in the early stage of an ambitious tour to promote Street Survivors. Flying from Greenville, South Carolina, where they had played a show the night before, to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, to a scheduled concert that would never be, the members of Lynyrd Skynyrd had every reason to feel elated. They now performed for larger audiences throughout the United States and beyond. The checks were bigger. Assistants attended to them like royalty. They were in their 20s. They must have seemed invincible. While the group were in top form, their chartered air transportation was tragically not. The day before the doomed flight, suspicions about the plane, a Convair CV-240, were apparent. The company that owned the ailing aircraft had scheduled it for maintenance soon, and some band members had considered taking a commercial flight to their next performance. But alternate flight arrangements were never made, and repairs would never come. On its final flight, above the thick green canopy of trees that cover this part of the state, the aircraft began to run out of fuel. Thinking they would never make the airport at Baton Rouge, the pilots aimed the sputtering machine toward a closer airfield in Macomb, Mississippi, but even that emergency objective was too far. When the aircraft stalled and glided lifelessly down into the trees, one witness reported the sound it made was like the boom, boom, booming of railroad cars colliding during hookup. Near the tree-thick site of the crash stretched an open pasture where the desperate pilots had hoped in vain to make an emergency landing. At the accident, many of the rescuers, in the heated rush of the moment, did not recognize the victims among the wreckage were members of the band Lynyrd Skynyrd. One of the rescuers recalls wondering, "What's a bunch of hippies doing in an airplane? They don't look like they can afford a ticket." Even some who recognized the band may have been confused in their excitement. One of the witnesses at the scene informed others nearby, "That's Lynyrd Skynyrd's plane, but don't worry, I think Lynyrd made it out okay."
this brought a tear to my eye, brought back a lot of memories. I remember exactly what I was doing. The radio was playing their songs. It was the beginning of their tour and release of their new album, and they broke through, and I just remember everybody was so shocked. It was just mind-blowing.
It always makes me wonder that if a tragedy like this didn't happen, how differently it might have shaped our music today, that many years ago, as much impact as that music still has on us today. And I don't think it has the impact because of the tragedy. I think it had the impact because it was great music.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, we do hope you've enjoyed our video today, and if you have, leave us a thumbs up. We certainly do appreciate it. And if you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and ring the notification bell, and that way you'll know when every one of our videos come out.
And thank you for following us as we follow the moon.
Thanks for watching today.
If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel.
And be sure to ring the notification bell so you'll know when new videos come out.
Don't forget to follow us on social media too.